The offseason has been a roller coaster for Oklahoma fans, and now it's time to buckle up for the season ahead. Here is a game-by-game breakdown of what we can expect from the Sooners this year. The Brent Venables era starts with a season opener against UTEP. This might honestly be a perfect scenario. A good warm-up game to get the team comfortable and start gelling along both the offensive and defensive sides of the ball. UTEP was pretty average last year, finishing with a 7-6 record and an even 4-4 conference record. Oklahoma is currently 4-0 against the Miners all time and should be 5-0 in a couple of weeks. Kent State had an explosive offense last season and a veteran team that made their conference title game and a bowl game. However, many of those veterans, especially along the offense, are now gone, making the Golden Flashes less of a problem, but don't look for them to roll over. Playing a tough non-conference slate isn't new territory for them. Last year they played Texas A&M and Iowa. This year they played Georgia and OU. As long as the Sooners aren't looking past them to next week's matchup, they should put Kent State out of striking range by the fourth quarter. The first real test on the Sooners' schedule is a huge one on the road in Lincoln, Nebraska. Rivalry games are always up for grabs, which was evident in last year's nail-biter. This season, Scott Frost will likely be coaching for his job. And with Oklahoma in town, the stakes will be high and the seat will be even hotter. The good news for the Cornhuskers is they brought in Casey Thompson, an Oklahoma native who absolutely decimated the OU secondary last year as quarterback for Texas in the Red River Rivalry, throwing for almost 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. While Thompson doesn't have the weapons that he had at Texas at Nebraska, he is clearly a talented quarterback and a player to watch out for in this game. Games on the road are always tough. Add in a fanatic crowd in a rivalry game, and the fact that it will be the first road test for the new-look Sooners and Brent Venables, I have Nebraska narrowly pulling off the upset. I've been high on the Wildcats during the offseason, and K-State has played Oklahoma well recently, winning 2 of the last 3 matchups. They added Nebraska transfer Adrian Martinez at quarterback and have one of the most versatile running backs in the nation with Deuce Vaughn. This game will feel like a homecoming of sorts for Venables, his first time as head coach against a team he was a former assistant at. Despite how tight the previous matchups have been, I think Oklahoma comes out on fire after a loss the week before and wins this one without much trouble. A new face will be roaming the sidelines for the first time in a long time as Sonny Dykes steps up to replace Gary Patterson at TCU. Defense was a problem for the Horned Frogs last season, finishing near the bottom of the Big 12 in yards and points allowed. Road games are never a walk in the park, but I expect the new-look OU offense to tear into TCU and come out with a W. OU comes into the Red River Rivalry this year riding a 4-game win streak. However, each game has been close, with the last 2 being all-time classics. Anytime these 2 teams come together, you might as well throw everything else out the window. Texas is looking to have a bounce-back season in year 2 of the Sark era, while Venables and the Sooners are looking to get the rivalry off on the right foot. This also happens to be the only game that the ESPN Power Index predictor doesn't have Oklahoma favored in this season. I'm anticipating both teams to come into this game ranked with 1 loss. This should be another tight matchup, but I give the Sooners the edge in a 1-score game. Credit to Kansas, they played a hell of a game last year. It's not often that Oklahoma gets shut out in the first half, and if it wasn't for Caleb Williams snatching the ball from his own teammate, Oklahoma fans might be facing the same fate that Texas fans are currently. I do expect this Kansas team to be better than last year, but I don't anticipate the score of the game to be close. The Sooners run away with this one. It looked like things were going to come together for the Cyclones last season. Top 10 ranking, coming off a conference title appearance, ready to compete for a spot in the college football playoff. However, that wasn't meant to be in 2021, as they stumbled to a 7-6 record, losing 4 Big 12 games including a close matchup with the Sooners. What makes matters worse is the Cyclones are replacing some of their most talented players from last year, including Breece Hall, Charlie Kolar, and Brock Purdy. I think it's going to be tough sledding throughout the Cyclone season, and fully expect OU to win this game by double digits. Revenge should be on the mind of Sooner Nation in their late season matchup with the defending Big 12 champions. Although I don't expect the Bears to be as good as they were last season, I do expect this game to be highly competitive. Dave Aranda and company are going to need to prove that last year's performance wasn't a fluke, and that the Bears are the new premier team in the conference. That will likely revolve around the recipe they used to win games last season, running the football and playing great defense. Baylor has only beaten Oklahoma in Norman once in school history, and I don't expect a repeat of that this season. The Sooners get their revenge, winning a tight one at home. The West Virginia game last season was one of many nail-biters, and the Mountaineers will be led under center by a new quarterback in Georgia transfer JT Daniels. Despite some close calls, Oklahoma has dominated West Virginia over the years when it comes to wins and losses, holding a 9-game win streak. The last time the Mountaineers beat the Sooners was in some bowl game in 2008 that we don't talk about. On the flip side, the last time Oklahoma finished with a perfect Big 12 record was in 2016. Unfortunately for the Sooners, I don't see that happening this year. Following an exhausting win over Baylor, West Virginia finds a way to get it done at home and upset the Sooners, shocking the college football landscape. I'll say it, last year's Bedlam game was a fluke. Bad no call on a PI in the end zone would have led to the Sooners winning and clinching a spot in the Big 12 title game. Yes, I'm still salty about it. I think this Cowboys team is going to take a step back compared to last year. Defensive coordinator Jim Knowles is gone, as well as 3 key pieces in the secondary, which could spell trouble for a unit that was the main reason for OSU's success last year. While I do see Spencer Sanders improving, he has yet to prove he can consistently perform at a high level. In last year's matchup, he did what he had to do to help lead the Cowboys to a victory. Keep in mind, I have Oklahoma losing last week against West Virginia, and since 1999, Oklahoma has lost back-to-back regular season games just twice. Oklahoma State fans have been holding their win over OU fans' heads for a year, and honestly, that's a year too long. I expect Oklahoma to dominate this game at home. The Texas Tech game was one of few OU games last year that the Sooners controlled throughout. You can never trust an away game in Lubbock, especially if it's played at night. You can't see the tortillas coming. We might also be seeing the Tech of old when it comes to the offense, as new head coach Joey McGuire has brought in offensive coordinator Zach Kittley, who just happened to be a part of a Western Kentucky program that had the #1 passing offense in the nation last season. However, the Sooners will be riding the momentum of a win over their rivals, and I expect them to carry that out to West Texas. OU wins a tight one, closing out Big 12 play on a high note. Oklahoma finishes the regular season off 10-2 and 8-1 in conference play, earning themselves a berth in the Big 12 title game. When it comes down to it, I don't think this Sooner team loses much of a step compared to last year, which in my opinion was a down year. I could see anywhere from 8 to 11 regular season wins, but I may mean high. The best is yet to come for this program. If you want to see why Oklahoma will fit in perfectly with the SEC, check out this video here. And as always, have a great day and see y'all at the next one.